Hello and welcome to Roundtable, a series of conversations with CEOs and business owners from the global coffee community. My name is Yannis Apostolopoulos and I'm the CEO of the Specialty Coffee Association. Special thanks to our series sponsor, Storm Barista Attitude. A blend of craftsmanship and high technology, Storm Barista Attitude is designed for the most demanding and experimental baristas, offering total control over brewing parameters. Learn more at stormbaristattitude.com. We also want to thank the sponsor of the episode, Savor Brands. Savor Brand continues to champion independent cafes, coffee roasters, and producers by helping them evolve with specialty coffee. United by Coffee, Savor Brand is there to support every step of the supply chain. The coronavirus pandemic has brought the global economy to a halt, having an immediate and long-term impact on specialty coffee businesses and professionals. What are businesses doing to survive in this time of crisis? What are the experiences of those business owners who had to shut down or reduce their operations? Are there opportunities to be seen in those dark times? These are all questions we seek to answer in honest conversations with dozens of leaders in the industry over the next few weeks. We hope you enjoyed today's conversation featuring small specialty coffee roasters from around the world.
So hello, everybody, and welcome to another roundtable. It's a pleasure and an honor today to have small roasters from around the world. I would like to welcome Asli Yaman, the co-founder of Kimma Coffee in Turkey. Hello, Asli.
Hello, Yannis.
Jen Apodaca, the founder of Mother Tongue Coffee in San Francisco, California. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Jake Hu, the founders of Tasters Coffee in Taipei, Taiwan.
Hello, everyone, and Yannis.
Hello, Jake. And Youn, marketing director of Bean Brothers in Seoul, in Korea. Hi, Youn.
Hi. Hi, everyone.
So today it's May 28th. We're getting to the end of May where we're recording this, and we're seeing countries starting to open up, and we're looking into the summer, hopefully with a bit of optimism that we used to do like 3 weeks ago, because weeks seems like months now. I would like to start with Youn, because Korea has been like the model of dealing with the issue. What do you see today? Where and what has been the challenges over the past few weeks?
To get to introduce about the South Korea situation, the virus started around like in late January for us, and then we had a very sharp increase in late February, and then everything seemed to slow down after that, and then actually, right now, we're having some more increases in Seoul, just like starting from yesterday, and we're having like group infections coming up again. So we never had like a huge lockdown, and everything's very same. People do a lot of remote work, but there are people who go to work now too. And we were about to have like elementary schools, high school, junior highs to go to schools now, and then we're trying to stop that because of the group infection just, coming like just yesterday, a few days ago. So we're having some slopes and everything's not pretty not all shortened up. But so South Korea and Seoul, we never had like a such huge lockdown, but we had some sharp phases, and that really affected our businesses. So actually in late January when the case started, we didn't really have any slow down of the business, but like in the late February when we had the Daegu group infection, every business really slowed down and people didn't really come out. And the situation was worse in Daegu in the southern areas. And recently, out in May, we had a definite diagnosis customer in one of our stores just like 2 or 3 weeks ago. And then we had the health authority come to one of our stores, and they did, the things that they had to do. And so it was a really so like in Korea, like people were starting to think that everything was okay, and then we were going out, and then there's like more group infections, and that's also affecting us, how we see this, seriously. And so yeah, that's the situation in Seoul. So a lot of slopes.
That is really interesting. Can I ask you the following?
Mm-hmm.
In Korea, I guess you never had a lockdown like the rest of the world, or like stores were never closed. But I hear that you're saying like people were not going out much, they weren't socializing much.
Mm-hmm.
And you roast coffee, you have your stores.
Mm-hmm.
How this like you said, the business slowed down, but did you see any other opportunities, like people coming? Because I know in Korea there is the culture that you go and you sit to the coffee shop for a long period of time to enjoy your coffee. Did you see
Mm-hmm.
people shifting to takeaway or other kind of taking coffee for home?
So after the slowdown, like we have a lot of delivery business in Seoul, Korea, and that really, developed a lot too. And we started doing some delivery services in 1 or 2 of our stores, but that didn't really, increase the business itself, because it was much of the people, that want to stay in our coffee shops. Another thing in Korea, we have like, the Korean Amazon for like fresh food. When you order like this night, you can get the fresh food just next early morning. And we were about to just, go into one of the largest shopping malls, online shopping malls. And that was a good, business that got affected by the COVID-19. It was like, it was like it's called like the dawn business, like the daybreak delivery. So that was a business opportunity, but the size isn't that as large as what has slowed down or what has decreased.
That's really interesting. I'll try to move through the geography as the virus spread through the world. So I'm going to go to Jake. Jake, you're in Taipei and Taiwan. You were telling me earlier that you have 0 cases for the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
So how things are today, and how things has been like over the past months, and what has been the challenges for your business?
For me, like according the government's information, in February we have like total for the catering industry, we have reduced like about 5%. Then in March we reduced like around 10%, and in April we reduced about 15% compared to the last year's business. And we do feel the business going down more actually in the coffee industry. So because we observe the customer behavior changing a lot, they try to save more money in hands and to reduce the expense. So in total, because we have like about 40 to 50 wholesale customers. So our observation, it's about around 20 to 25% reduce about the roasted beans selling. So that's what we found. But we also observed like from May, actually the selling are going back, because we have like almost no cases. So everything is like almost back to normal now. But we have very different very different experience in China. In China, in January, we still have like very good sales because it's like before the Chinese New Year. And then in February, we have 0 sale, 0 amount. Then back to March. In March, we have actually the same amount as like January. And in April, it's like crazy. We doubled the sales. Really? So yes, so that's a very very different customer behaviors in China and compared to Taiwan.
That's really interesting. Can I ask you, in Taiwan, and because you see like both Taiwan and China, like you have 0 cases. Do you feel that
Yes.
people feel safe again to go out and socialize and go to a coffee shop and sit together? Do they trust each other to be on the same place? Because I think that plays an important role.
Okay. Yes, I do believe like most of the people are actually back to their normal lives, except they're wearing masks. And I think that's because we experienced in 2003, we have the SARS virus, and that gives most of the people the experience about how to deal with the pandemic like this. And I think that's a very, very important reasons for the most of the people are like when the just beginning of the COVID-19, everybody are so like get used to and adopt to how to face to the situation like this.
Perfect. That's really some positive and good news there. So
Yes.
moving a bit more to the west, Asli, Turkey. We now go to Europe. Europe was the second epicenter of the pandemic. There were governments that took that seriously and governments that they delayed on the response. Turkey, I think, was somewhere in the middle there. I don't know what is the situation today and how your business has been affected, because you're mostly doing just wholesale business. You
Yes.
don't own a coffee shop and you have the training center. So
Yes.
can you just tell us about that a bit?
So actually everything started with a surprise, we can say. We were expecting some things, but not like this period, like all around the world. But we started to change some of the things for our business and also for our, our community slowly with the beginning of March. So before that, we had very interesting. We had actually national coffee competitions in Turkey, and just after that, this thing has started in Turkey, and we had the first case. We heard about the first case, but we are actually suspicious about it as well. I mean, it was the official announcement. We are thinking that there were some cases, but we didn't know. Because this is very new thing, interesting thing, very surprising thing, and we don't know what happened before that. So after we heard about this, of course, many businesses closed their places temporary, and the government put some restrictions as well, especially for the cafes and restaurants. And which means, especially for us, like a company who is making the wholesale, it means almost 99% of your business stops. But luckily, we were doing some online sales. And by March, actually Jake explained, it was very interesting for us as well. Within March, month of March, we were expecting some movement for the online sales, but we had the peak in April. So this shows us that people now start to, stay at home more, and also they start to consume more coffee at their home. And now we were actually able to reach to new clients, which we were not before. We were not successful about it, because these clients are coming to cafes, or they go to restaurants or other places where they can find coffee. But now we can find them directly, or they can find us directly. And this parameter is the same for other small coffee companies in Turkey, the same, not only for our company. And many of us now try to push for the online sales because we see it as an advantage. We see it as a nice gift of this period, actually. And but beside that, of course, government put many restrictions depending for the health part, for the social insurance. There was also like short-term employment as well, and also we had to limit our working hours as well. But I think we are one of the luckiest companies that we didn't stop since we decided to, you know, say like, okay, we will work with the limited hours. But additional to this, of course, we had to stop our trainings. We couldn't make it, and for the near future, I think with the help of SCA, a new platform, we will do many things online. But coming together and making group trainings, I don't know about it. I think we will make it within limited hours and also with limited people, maybe 2 or 3 people for maximum for one training, and then we will see. This is the general situation now, and people are ready to start or to go back to actually, let's say, the new normal. I don't know how we can say about this new normal, but by next week, as of actually Monday, 1st of June, people will start to go back to work, and they will start to open their places. They are now making some stress on the government because economically some things need to start again.
Yeah, I definitely can understand that. That was interesting though that you said you lost 99% of your revenue.
Yeah, we cannot say like a revenue, but you know, how can I say, all the strategy and all the parameters, we had to stop. We couldn't do anything.
Of course. I'm wondering, like, for a small roaster like you, that you are doing mostly wholesale, does the online business cover your expenses, like the operational expenses, the absolutely minimum to keep the operation going? Did the online sales from grow so fast to cover that operational cost for you?
When we look at the percentage, yes, it is increased, I can say 100%. This is very interesting, but of course it will not, or it doesn't, and it will not cover all the costs that we have. But I mean, at least we can pay our rent, we can pay our salaries, we can also pay the taxes to government, because government announced that they will postpone the taxes, but they don't. This is very interesting. We continue to pay the taxes. I mean, they say, okay, 3 months later you can start paying, but it means you will have additional, you know, costs. So that's why we decided that let's pay our current taxes and current costs. Let's cover them as much as we can, and then we will do some other plans for the near future and also far future.
So as I understand, the government didn't do anything to support you.
For small and medium-based companies, no, unfortunately. We had, for example, vouchers. We use a lot of vouchers in Turkish economy. You have to pay your vouchers. You know, it will never. Nobody says that. Okay, you can postpone it or you can prolong it. Yeah. Nobody said that.
That's very interesting. On the SEA thing, I think this will play on air after June 1st, where we'll have all our foundation level going just online. We will actually, by now, won't have the requirement for the practical tests. It will be, the practical will be part of the training, but will not be mandatory for the testing. But it's a completely different program. So going to Jen, the US. Yeah. The US has been really a challenge. So we had, like the government here has been refusing to see the problem coming. Fortunately, you and I, we are in California. The governor was like much more proactive on doing the right things here. But still, from our side, like, we know how painful it was to get governmental support. We didn't get any. We're not entitled to any 501c6. We're out of that. I don't know how it worked for you and what has been the challenges, because you are like a startup. You're like it's been 1 year that you operate now. And,
yeah, 1 year.
So congratulations. And you have to face that big challenge that it's a pandemic. So it's once in a century, but here you go. It's on your first year of operation. So what has been the challenges for you, and where do you see light at the end of the tunnel?
Well, I would say that the challenge for me is that I had this really great plan of how I was going to start, like acquiring sales and showing growth, and then going out towards having more of a conventional business loan after a couple of years with Small Business Association, and I was hoping to try and do this without seeking like a large round of investment, and really making this like my company. But now, like looking at my sales and watching them like completely drop off has been, it's a little disheartening. But just like with Asli and a few others, that my sales went from pretty much mostly being like 80% wholesale, like business to business, and then 20% being direct to consumer of online sales. And now my wholesale business completely went away, except for one customer who kept his cafe open throughout the pandemic. So that was really great, and we really bonded over that. So, but I did see an increase in online sales. Sales-wise, the numbers look great, but online sales and packaging smaller boxes and doing individual orders for consumers, it is much more labor intensive. So I found myself working, almost taking a day and a half sometimes to get the same amount of, actually less coffee roasted, in order to make that work happen. So, in this situation, I would probably look to hire someone, but I'm not necessarily making enough money to hire someone without maybe some assistance. Plus, it's hard to hire someone if you're not really sure what the future holds. Like, will they still be my customer later? Because not just my business is very small and it's been great, but I also run a shared roasting space in Oakland, and we have about 15 different companies that roast out of that shared roasting space. So we all rent time on the machines. So I work there and I'm a customer, right? And I would say that of all of our clients there, some of them just completely closed and stopped ordering and shut down. And most of those were ones who worked in like financial districts around large office buildings, or those who service office buildings, things like that, especially where you could have like anywhere where people could work remotely and work from home, and the offices were closed, or there was so much social, like the proximity would be too close that it could be deemed unsafe, that you couldn't practice proper social distancing. Like, no one's going back to those jobs, and that hasn't picked up yet. We're still kind of waiting to see what will happen there. But the places that did stay open, I think that we saw everybody reduce their labor hours probably by 50%. So say if you were coming in every week, now you're coming in every other week, and so we saw a reduction there. But the people who kept open are usually like owner operators, like those folks who work in their cafe and they also roast their own coffee and they own the business, and those people stayed open and saw, like, I think that they had a really good opportunity to create this like trust with the community that they're serving, like I'm hoping that works out for them. And they didn't see too much of a reduction in sales, which I thought was really great. Like from my friends, they're like, oh, maybe I'm 20% behind or 30% behind. Like, I thought it would be worse. But now that cafes are starting to open again, I think people are starting to see a drop in sales because the people who are out have more places to go. So I feel like there's still more bumps, to roll through.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That would be really interesting what you're saying. Like, prime real estate that used to be near offices and commercial buildings, actually didn't pay out on this pandemic, and real estate near residential areas, I think it was much more profitable, I would say. I don't want you to use the word profitable, more convenient for people to buy coffee. The question I have is, do you think that coming out of this, we're going to see, like you said, a lot of small businesses, or especially on that third roasting facility, you've seen a lot of businesses closing. Do you think that we're going to see a lot of entrepreneurs going out of business completely, especially in our industry? And how it's going to affect the whole, I would say, not only supply and demand issue, but the whole specialty coffee as an industry? Because we as specialty coffee, it's all about the values that we believe. It's not just the coffee that we taste, and we're going to lose people out of that. Like, we're going to lose people that they adhere on the values, believe on the values, and we're going to see a different, maybe, specialty coffee industry going out of that. So what is your gut feeling on this one?
My gut feeling on that is that we will see some entrepreneurs going out of business, but I think that there's a group of entrepreneurs. The entrepreneur that is like very hands-off, never works in the cafe, hires people. Like, I think that those entrepreneurs, I think that their margins are going to be a lot smaller. And particularly in this situation where you have an epidemic, where the more interaction you have with people, the more potential you have for contracting the virus, you know, especially if you don't offer your employees, like, you know, time to wash their hands, or if you don't like help them find masks, or if you don't require your customers to wear masks, or, you know, if you're not protecting your employees, then, I mean, there's probably a trust issue building too between employer and employee. And so if your boss isn't willing to get the virus, why should you go to work and get the virus, you know? So, and we've already seen, like, I think also in the Bay Area where I am, it is really expensive. It's completely unaffordable. And a lot of businesses, I think, were already going out of business, to be honest. And this just was like the thing that like made it happen, you know? Yeah, I'm not sure. That's my feeling.
I do hope things like shake up during this, and we go to much more realistic costs of running a business throughout the world, not just in the Bay Area. Bay Area was like way beyond reality for especially small medium businesses. I want to go to Asli to ask you personally, as a leader of your company and a founder, what has been like the biggest challenge that you had over the last couple of months? Like, how did you experience all these crises?
Actually, the biggest challenge was to keep the health. It was the biggest challenge because yeah, we are a small medium-based company, but still we have employees and we have to take care of them. Like always, of course, but in this period, it is something not very well known. This was the biggest challenge because we continued our business. We didn't stop. I mean, since we decided to say, okay, we will work limited hours, we did everyday roasting. You know, we didn't stop roasting. We didn't stop packaging. So what we did, we put limited hours for individual people, you know, for individual employees. And we had to work also from home as well. For example, I was at home, my partners were at home. We were always in front of the computer, you know, which we used to not spend so much time before. Because we put a lot of physical work in our, business. But we have our families, we had to take care of them. For example, I have my mom and father, they are over 60 years old, and we were afraid to go out. So this was a big challenge for us, to keep your work done, continue, and also to keep your environment at home as well. So, and you don't know, you keep yourself safe or secure, but what about the others? So this was the biggest challenge, I think. Other than that, we are like people, like, you know, we are like entrepreneurs, you know. We are very practical people. When we see something, we just put it into life, and then we just move. So we did that part, I think, successfully. But I can say the biggest challenge was the health part of it, to keep our health consistent, at least I can say. Other than that, everything continues. Now, I think, especially until the end of this year, first I can say until September, because we have the summertime, and then until the end of this year, we have to make good plans for 2021. Because like Jen said, for example, there will be new entrepreneurs and some entrepreneurs will go out. So we have to see this new actual picture.
Reality, yeah.
Yes.
Young, so for you, having more employees and more people in Korea, what was your personal challenge during this period? I think you're muted.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. So, yeah, one of the biggest challenges was to keep our employees feeling that they're actually secure. And like in late January, it was really hard to get some masks in Korea. Like, so the mask prices were really soaring high. And so everyone had to, like, all of the employees, they would go on internet to find like where you could get masks and everything. So that was one of the initial issues that we had. And as recently we had like a definite diagnosis in one of our stores. Actually, the customer wasn't wearing a mask. So our employees, they were all wearing masks, but they were really shocked and they were really affected that they had actually met a definite diagnosis and they wanted to get the test, and some of them did and they were negative. So during this issue happening, we have like around like 50 employees working in Seoul, and we could see that there was like a definite diagnosis visiting in another store, and like the other employees would also get affected about this situation, right? So keep on communicating this very clearly and making people really secure through this was one of the biggest challenges. Well, and it was the same for also like the customers. So we would get like a call from a customer that from one store that if like an employee sneezes or like has like a red eye, a customer would call and say that, oh, I think like someone's quite, not feeling well. Is she or he feeling okay? And actually we also had a blackmail threat, like via Facebook messages, direct messages, that saying that I am like a definite diagnosis and I'm going to go to like the health authority, and then I'm going to say that I have visited your cafe. So if you want to stop me, you have to like give me money. So this was happening also.
Oh my gosh.
That's really bad, but like, yeah, that's really horrible. And actually, like some of these actually work for like smaller, older business entrepreneurs that don't know this is like blackmailing and everything, because Korea, like the government was, they were putting on news on like all of the transactions, like the definite diagnosis, like we were very publishing everything very, with all the private policy issues, but yeah, so there was some blackmails also. So we were, so when we actually had the definite diagnosis, visiting very recently, the store managers thought that it was like a blackmail again. Like it was like, oh, this is like bluffing. And then actually it was a real one. So it was all these happenings, going through this and making people really feel secure about during this, because we have like daily customers. We didn't stop operating our stores, and we had like 20 or 30% decrease in sales from like January, from February to March, but we still have like, you know, a few hundreds people coming. So making our employees feel secure about the people coming in and making the customers feel secure was the biggest challenge, I think.
Yeah, I can only imagine how difficult it is to make your employees feel secure to service people when they go through this. And the blackmailing thing, it's like, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm speechless on this one. Jake, going to you. You've been someone who runs a company both in China and in Taipei. What was your personal challenge? Do you relate with what the others have said?
No, I think I have two things need to fix first. The first, yes, the employees' health and the securities. And on these things, I think I'm the lucky one because I was a virologist working on SARS virus for actually for 3 years.
Okay.
So during the 2003 to 2006, I actually worked in the virus lab and doing the virus detection jobs. So I have lots of experience about the transmitted disease, and I'm still very alert to those kind of things. We know the food and beverage business are actually the front lines of the transmitted disease. So actually in my company, we have a certain amount of masks storage, and we will like keep the storage at a certain amount. And actually right before, I think it's on the January 1st, I actually placed an order, actually enough for my company for like about 3 months masks for every day, they can change. So I think I just lucky about these things. The second thing is actually I also need to keep my cash flow healthy. And fortunately, we have kind of like budget planning and to have some cash reserve, because we know in March to June that will be our like green bean purchasing season. So I actually built up a lot of cash, prepare for the green bean buying. So fortunately, those cashes help me to pass through these months, and I just can simply cut down the green bean purchasing to keep my company still healthy. So, but on the other hand, like in China, because it's like 1 month totally no income. So actually, I have to move the money from Taipei to China to support the expense over there, and but I'm lucky it's just like 1 month, and then everything seems like all back. So so still now I'm still kind of lucky. Yes.
Yeah, I can only imagine how cash flow have been. Jen, you being like a single person, but also I heard you saying that you were trying to avoid a big investment round to help you, and were trying to make this your own business. So what was the experience for you over the last couple of months? I don't even dare to think.
Well, I'm glad I didn't take a lot of, and you know, the goal was to not take on a lot of investment until I felt like I had grown the business to a certain level. And I'm glad I didn't, because, you know, I didn't have any fears of, you know, having to pay back a large loan or anything like that and seeing my sales decrease. My biggest problem was in the beginning of my business, you know, like when you roast coffee, there's a batch size that you put in, and then you have so many orders. And I remember the depressing first months when my orders were so small compared to how much I had to roast for a minimum batch size. And I would just cry at all this coffee I had to like donate or throw away. And so now, like, when things started closing down, like all of my accounts in like large office buildings and stuff like that started, you know, saying, oh, we're shutting down, and, you know, thank you very much, and maybe we'll talk to you later. I started seeing those very small numbers coming through, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? But I talked with a friend, and I decided, and I have a lot of friends who work in like as nurses in emergency rooms. And so I'm like, well, let's just donate it, right? You know? And so I donated it, and I put it on social media, and I was talking to another friend, and I'm like, do you think maybe people might help me? Like maybe people want to chip in like a tip, like a tipping system on my online sales that I could use towards the green coffee costs, you know? And so what I do is now is I have like this fund of tips that you can buy if you like, you know, and it's different amounts, whatever people want to donate. And I use my business to business price per pound, so that way it covers my green coffee and my overhead. And then I deliver it to hospitals. So sometimes I drive them there, or I ship it. And then one of my big office accounts actually came back and was like, well, we can't buy any for our offices, they're not open, but we really like what you're doing, so we would like to donate some corporate sponsorship money towards that. And that has helped me move through old coffee, move through like my inventory. I mean, I was sitting there looking at it, and I'm going like, oh my gosh, you know, business is going to pick up, and then I'm going to have this coffee that's, you know, going to be so old, but I can't like just go buy more coffee because I do not have a cash reserve yet. I hope to be just like you and have a cash reserve. That's going to be my goals for sure. But yeah, you know, I'm just trying to move through what I have, my inventory. So that was great.
That is really great what you did there. And I've been following that on social media because you were posting about that. That is really nice. And to hear that you have someone who came back from your customer says, we want to sponsor that. That is a really great story. So I would like to go a bit on the future now, on where do we see opportunities coming out of that. And if you have tried anything like what Jen just told us, it's a great story. But I would like to ask you about opportunities that we see in the future, or experiments that you took and it worked, and what we can carry forward as we theoretically, sooner or later, we're gonna go to a new normal. I think the big bet here, no matter what, is a disruption either with a treatment or a vaccine sooner or later, where people start actually to feel safe. Because that's, I think, it's the key to the hospitality business. But I would like to ask you about that. So let me shuffle a bit the table. I'll start this time with Jake. Jake, where do you see the end of this, the end of the tunnel, and what are the opportunities here?
Yeah, I'll say we can see it's obvious, like the e-business is growing up very dramatically actually in China. Like one of my friend, he has like 4 coffee shops and also the online shop. And during the January and the February, I have to shut down all the shops. But actually, the e-commerce actually cover all the expense, and so they survive. So now he reopened the shop like one by one, just because the e-business helped him a lot. So I think the e-business, I think the most important part will be like the membership development. So you will have more predictable incomes. And then the second thing is you need to diverse your business to reduce the risks. So like for for me, actually, our company, we have like 3 major business type. One is, of course, the wholesales, then the retails, and we actually have training and the consulting service. So when in the beginning, the China's have the pandemic, so I transfer my training jobs to Japan and to Southeast Asia, and then, but unfortunately, it's like one by one, all my job opportunities are closed because everywhere it's the virus. But still, we have the chance to do the training course and also the consultancy things in Taipei. So that helped me a lot to even like the wholesale drops like maybe 25%, but the company business still kind of healthy. So the diversity will be also the very important things. And then I think another things will be more, especially in Taiwan, it's like the small roasters. Usually we purchase green beans from the green bean importers. But now it's more, it's a good opportunities to like have like small roasters alliance to do like some direct trade to cut down the costs. So that will be like in the one hand, we try to cut down our costs, and on the other hand, try to diverse our business, especially develop the e-commerce. So I think these things in the future will be like the very possible ways to keep the company running.
Thank you for that. Asli, going to you. I heard Jake saying also about direct trade. I know you're doing a lot of work in origin and direct trade. So what is the opportunities here? Where do you see opportunities, not only just for your business, but also for the whole supply chain?
Yeah, this is a great actually point which Jake mentioned. I totally agree with you, Jake. I believe, I mean, companies like us and larger companies will do more and more direct trade. There are reasons behind this. First of all, we will try to support more. We will try to support the producers more because they need more support now from us because they have different challenges. They used to have, especially for some of the origins like, I don't know, Africa, for example. They used to have challenges, but now they will have more because what I have seen so far, okay, the prices in the origins are not increasing for the moment, but they will increase, and there will be the customs and the logistics problems. So in order to cut down all these, additional costs, we have to start working together. I mean, more with the origin, with the local producers, and also with the suppliers who are also supporting the local producers in reality. So this is also our biggest challenge that we have for my country as well. For the moment, for example, especially for the coffees coming from Brazil, Peru, Colombia, we are facing some logistic problems as well, and I'm sure it's similar for other countries. And we are looking for near future and also far future, how we can bring more of our coffees from the origins. This was a great topic, actually. Thank you so much, Jake.
So, Jen, if I go to you, I know you're a huge advocate for equity on the value chain, and if you see this week, we just launched the producers CEO Roundtable, and I was surprised to hear from many producers that they were realizing the struggle of some of their customers, especially in small, medium businesses around the world, and they were saying, "Oh, we are providing credit to our suppliers because we know they need it." And I was pleasantly surprised to see how those producers feel that those are important relationships, and they want to keep them going, and they want to support their customers. There were other producers saying, you know what, we mostly produce coffees that have a higher cost of production, and we're so small that we struggle with that, and we're afraid that we won't be able to sell our coffees on the prices that we should be selling them. But it was a very interesting panel, because I had like a split of half and half, like between people that they were saying, no, I think that we are good enough, or in good enough position to support our customers. That was really interesting. So what is your view about opportunities, not only on your business, but for the whole value chain?
Right. Well, my business, the idea of my business is I want to buy good quality coffees. I don't want to buy anything that increases the cost of production for anyone. So I like solid 84, 85 point coffees that are clean and sweet. And I like to pay really good prices for them to make sure that I can build a relationship with someone and they stay in business, right? So for me, like I have several customers that I work with, and then, I have several producers that I work with, and then the rest of it I find on spot. And what I've found is that for a small business like me, the spot market is really small. In fact, I would say that like most importers are, like as soon as this happened, all importers went to like cash on demand. You have to pay first. So if you had 30-day terms before, there's no longer extending terms, which if you're a business who most of your customers are demanding 45 to 60-day terms from you, it means that you have to cover, a good like 3 to 4 months cash flow. Can be really difficult. And that just assumes that people pay you on time, at the same, and then if you're supplying for cafes, and if they're also having some troubles, and then they're also not paying. So the fact that like, even if I want to be nice and offer credit to cafes that I can provide coffee for, I'm not seeing any of that extension from importing businesses at all, or any understanding, to be honest. So the fact that, people in the producers want to keep the relationships with their customers is fantastic. Which producers are those? I'm just kidding. But
it's on the CEO Roundtable that we released on Monday. You can go and look at it. But
I'm gonna watch.
It's really interesting.
It is really interesting. I talked with one friend who works for an importing company, and they're only bringing in coffees that are pre-sold, and I'm not big enough to guarantee. If I had, like you were asking everybody on the horizons, like what, safe bets you want to work towards. And I was listening to Jake talk about like diversifying, and that's been really big on my mind since I'm mostly wholesale and online. The grocery business is a business that is a part that I really want to get into, and it's complicated and the margins are super thin, but the volume can be really great. And in a time like this, it can be very consistent and help you reach a larger customer base. And so that's one direction that I was going for. And if I had those, I probably, like most of the accounts, most roasters that have large grocery store accounts, I think that they did really well, because that is one of the essential businesses that stayed open, right? And so a lot of people bought their coffee from the grocery store. So, if I was one of those roasters who already had these large accounts, then I could say, yes, for sure, I can, contract out some coffee with an importer, but I can't, and it's too small. So fortunately, some importers have been really great and are just giving me like direct lines of communication to producers that they think might have coffees that I like. And this year I'm going to experiment in air freighting 1 or 2 bags directly. So We'll see, how that works out. Right. So it's going to be an adventure. Right.
It's an experiment. You don't know how it's going to work, but it seems like an opportunity to open some direct relationships there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Youn, from your side, where are the opportunities here? Where are the opportunities, not just for your business, but for the whole coffee industry?
Well, everyone's made a really good point about the businesses and like small roasters alliances for direct trade. It's a really good idea. And for our company, we tried to reach like more global importers and even green bean importers like in America, US, that didn't really have some interest in, exporting to South Korea before, because US was such a large market. So we started to reach out to more global importers because we were, operating, we didn't have a lockdown. So that was like a different approach we had. And we also, so our company does also wholesale, and we have retail stores and online. And for our wholesale customers, we usually did some training regularly, like once a month. We would gather up, do some cupping sessions or do like espresso trainings, but we couldn't gather up. So we tried to do like on live sessions. We would gather up questions and we would answer them. So we did it like an Instagram live, and we're doing another YouTube live next week. So we're exploring new ways to communicate with our customers. And I think this is a need not just from like our wholesale customers, but people, who's been doing remote work for over like 3 months. They want to communicate and they want to do some classes at their homes. So we're having like inquiries from like Facebook Korea that they want to have like a Zoom online class and everything. So we're seeking more opportunities that people don't really connect offline, but do connect in online. That's what I've experienced so far.
Perfect. So I would like to thank you all. This panel has been like, I really enjoyed this panel. It has been a really nice panel. It has a lot of things to think and take away from this panel, and I really enjoyed that. Thank you for your time. It has been a really honor and a pleasure to have you all here today. So I would like to thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yannis. Thank you for everything. Thank you. It was great.